this is completely off topic of here,
Okay.
but whenever I see Rufy as a name and I hear it, all I think of is Luffy from One Piece, and I'm like, damn, man should try to get a nickname, Mauricio Gum Gum Rufy or something like that. I don't know.
I want to say that it might be pronounced Ruffy. I think we're botching that one.
Okay.
Obviously,
okay.
when I say Rufy, I think of Rufalin. I mean, I guess not obviously because you thought of Luffy, and that's what I thought you were going to say.
No, definitely a very different thing.
OneLife MMA back at you, talking about UFC 313 today. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. As much as I'd love to get right into that fight itself, there's so many good fights to talk about in the main card in general. So how about you go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, so the first fight of the night was King Green versus Mauricio Rufy, and it ended pretty quick with a devastating head kick by Mauricio Rufy on King Green. And oh, that was an insane kick. What did you think of the fight, though?
Yeah, man. So I'd say probably the result that I expected, but not as I did not expect Rufy to go out there and be that easy, right? In hindsight, it's actually a huge mismatch for King Green. First of all, did you know his name used to not be King?
No, I had no idea.
Okay, yeah. So
what was his name?
Bobby Green, but it was Bobby King Green was his nickname. And then
so he just changed his name to King.
Yeah, he pulled a yay and just just took over the King name. So anyway, Green is notorious for having his hands down low.
Okay.
In all his fights, which allows your punches to be a little bit hidden when you're coming from the hip. But against someone who is so meticulous with their punches and so accurate, I mean, dude, I think he threw like 3 strikes in that fight, and I think only 2 of them landed. I think he threw for the first punch he threw, rocked him. Okay, he missed a left jab, and then he threw that spinning wheel kick and put him out cold.
So this is something I wrote down early on in the fight because he did a cross that Rufy did a cross that almost knocked him out.
I think that was the first punch.
Yeah. How frequently are there crosses that knock people out?
Crosses,
you see
crosses
hooks,
I'd say more frequent. Go ahead.
Yeah, you see hooks knock people out all the time. You see uppercuts. You see things like that, but I don't know. You never see a jab or a cross that as far as I know, that just knocks someone out.
I mean, a good cross will definitely put someone out. I don't know what kind of chin Green has anymore. So he's been like 50 fights.
Wow.
And he's coming off some tough losses. He just got smoked in his last fight against what's his name? Paddy Pimblett. I forget how the decision was. Can you take a look at that?
So King Green was submitted in round 1 by Pimblett. So what?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so maybe not affecting the been in a lot of wars. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah. Fair
been
enough.
in a lot of wars, and I don't know if he has the chin, but at the same time, this Rufy kid he's got power. I mean, he's so explosive. He's super dangerous in the beginning of the fight. He does tend to fade a little bit towards the end of the fight because he's so explosive right out of the gate. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't expect a couple hits to take out Green, but he put on a show.
Okay, so yeah, that's insane. This is completely off topic of here, but whenever I see Rufy as a name and I hear it, all I think of is Luffy from One Piece, and I'm like, damn, man should try to get a nickname, Mauricio Gum Gum Rufy or something like that. I don't know.
I want to say that it might be pronounced Ruffy. I think we're botching that one.
Okay.
Obviously, when I say Rufy, I think of Rufalin. I mean, I guess not obviously because you thought of Luffy, and that's what I thought you were going to say.
No,
you thought
definitely
of
a very different thing.
That's hilarious. Well, he gave him the Roofy.
Yeah, for sure.
the Roofalin last night.
He put him out for 2 full nights.
Yeah, he did. Oh my goodness. So yeah, fantastic performance by him. I would love to see him fight another really high level striker. I think that so I don't know if you know that, but it's only his third fight in the
Really? In
UFC.
the UFC altogether?
Yeah. Yeah, well, so
Wow.
Dana White Contender Series, and then he's had 3 fights, uh, all wins,
How many fights in
and
the Contender Series? Just one
just one.
or?
Yeah, just
Okay.
one. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, yes, he's brand new, but dude, he's like smoking everybody. I think that he's maybe one fight away, if not deserving a shot at the bottom of the rankings right now. But I say put him in there against another like really skillful striker, and let's see a war. You
Yeah,
know?
that would be awesome for sure.
Yeah.
You think he's ready to break into the top 10 or top 15?
Top 15. I think he's ready. I don't know if they'll give it to him. I mean, there's several
No.
people on this card that would
Yeah.
be great matchups against him. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
put him against Bahamundez.
yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, lightweight is such a stacked division, though. Like,
Plenty of
even the
options.
bottom of the top 15 is incredible, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that it would be a treat to watch him fight anybody in the top 15 rankings. But I think there's also people that are maybe on the cusp of breaking into the rankings that would be a great matchup as well. All right, so our next fight was the women's strawweight bout between Lemos winning a unanimous decision over Lucindo.
Yeah.
Very disappointed in this fight, honestly.
Yeah. It was. So if you love jujitsu stalling, it was a great fight. If you love watching people be on the ground, right on the cage, doing very little, then it was a great fight to watch. Otherwise,
fight.
it was kind of boring.
Yeah, man. Lucindo's coming off a 4-fight win streak going to that fight. She walked into the octagon with boisterous level of confidence. I mean, I thought that she looked focused and she was ready to, go to war with a high ranked opponent. And she only performed for maybe 2 minutes of the entire fight. She didn't do anything for almost the entire 15-minute fight.
Well, I mean, obviously that it wasn't completely her, because like she was on bottom and couldn't get up. Obviously,
True.
it's a skill to get up, right? But Lemos just got a takedown and sat on top, acting like she was doing stuff for 3 minutes for 2 full rounds.
Yeah, no. The reason the fight was extremely boring was on both of them. But I was just surprised, with an up and comer like that. I thought that there was going to be more energy and more urgency to, try and climb the rankings a little bit more. And the same thing goes for Lemos. She didn't gain any respect in the division by winning that fight. She going up against up and comer who's on a 4-fight win streak. Like, yeah, you beat her, but you didn't show your skill set at all. You showed that you can win by technicality on the judges.
Yeah. And this might be just a issue with how the UFC scores jiu-jitsu, right? They're very heavy scoring the takedown versus and control, right? So if you take someone down and have control of them, even if you're not doing a lot, they still, like, if you have 3 minutes of control after a takedown, even if you don't do anything with it, that still really impacts your score. Whereas, like, if you think about like a wrestling or a jiu-jitsu match, right? 1 takedown is worth 2 points, and you can come back from that real fast. I think it's one of those things where it might be a problem with UFC scoring, with how a jiu-jitsu artist might even be incentivized to, if they can't get the submission, just take someone down and stay on top and do nothing.
I agree and disagree with you. So there's one prime example that goes for your point, which I'll bring up in a second. Hard to win a fight if you're on the bottom and not doing anything, which was the case in this fight, right? She was on the bottom and, maybe was trying to move her legs around a little bit for submissions, wasn't even really putting the feet on the hips to escape. In that case, like I said, it's a technicality. Like, yeah, you won because you were in a dominant position, but you're not raining down punches. But a great example of what you're talking about, where there could be a flaw, is I think back to the Volkanovski versus Islam fight, their first one,
100%.
where Volkanovski was doing excellent on the feet. It got down to the ground. He got taken down. Islam didn't do anything on there. And
Volkanovski did do more damage from the bottom than
Yeah.
Islam did from the top. That
Exactly,
that was insane. Like, I think the entire world believed that Volk won the fight, but, you know, because it was a takedown.
Yes.
And
But
because
that's a great
Islam
example
was
of
on
what you're
top.
talking about. Because yes, in that situation, who cares if Islam has Volkanovski's back if he's getting punched in the face and he's just squeezing Volk's body? Who's winning that fight in that situation?
Right.
So
Now,
so there are scenarios, not very many, I would say, where fighters on the bottom are the ones winning, unless obviously they win by a submission.
So I agree 100% that that's a good example. I think the thing I'm saying about this fight in particular, for instance, in wrestling, if they were stuck like that, that would have been stalemated in 30 seconds, right?
Yes.
And you get 2 points and that was stalemated, and then you go back to center and reset, right?
That is an interesting point that I don't even remember there being much warnings from the referee for activity in that fight.
No, there didn't really seem to be. And he didn't stand him up at all. He didn't move him. I mean, later in the day,
that is curious.
So they stood him up in one of the fights later in the night. So
I think they broke up Magomed and Alex off the fence. I think that's what you're thinking of. Yeah. No, interesting that you bring that up. Then no, I don't think that they even pushed the action as much. There was no stalemates pushed by the referee.
Yeah. So I think the fight, it might be a factor of the rules of why it wasn't as exciting as it could have been. Obviously, it was partially due to the fighters, right?
Yeah, but everybody must have agreed that fight was extremely boring, because I don't know if you noticed this, but the fight ended 5 seconds early. So they did the clap. Yeah. So you know how they do the 10-second clap. I think they use like wood blocks type thing.
Yeah.
But so they do the 10-second clap, and 5 seconds later the horn went off and they like stood up and were, hugging it out and stuff. But there was still 5 seconds left in the fight.
No,
so
I had no idea.
Yeah, someone blew the horn early. So apparently the fight staff also was sick of that fight and couldn't even bear 5 more seconds of watching them hug it out on the ground.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right. So the next fight to go over is the Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes fight, which ended in a first round submission by triangle choke. Oh, it was an incredible choke. What did you think of the fight overall?
Yeah, a lot more one-sided than I expected, to be honest. I thought that Jalen Turner's striking was going to be able to hang with Bahamondes a lot better. And Turner just didn't seem like he was prepared to assert his dominance in that fight. Bahamondes went out there as the clear aggressor from the beginning, set the pace, probably was winning in the striking department anyway. And it got to the ground very quickly. And, I don't know. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the striking part? And then we'll get more into the finish on the ground.
Yeah, as for the striking, I mean, Bahamondes just seemed to be dominant in the striking, and then it was a very one-sided fight. I don't know. It just seems like Jalen Turner was not. I don't know if he wasn't bringing it like he could, but I don't know. It felt very much like Bahamondes' fight the entire time, even after he was on the bottom.
I don't know if you peeped that Jalen Turner actually retired.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
no,
he took
I
his
did
gloves
not
off
realize
at the end
that.
of that fight. So you got to think about the mindset that he must have been in. Well, I mean, it depends. Some people, they think this is the determining fight of whether I continue or end, and they come out and do a spectacular performance. But I don't know. Maybe if that's on your mind, you're preoccupied. But he retired after that fight, which I'd like to talk a little bit more about. But you're right. He didn't look ready to bring it. Yeah,
he didn't feel like he was ready to bring it. Even after he was on top and had the takedown, like they got into that. It was a scramble situation, right? Where there was a scramble,
I believe so.
And Jalen Turner ended up on top, but Bahamondes really, if I remember right, he made a really smart move to get into that triangle position. But do you remember that? Is that
he made it look easy, really? But this
Yeah,
is it's funny that this is coming up right after our last discussion because Bahamundez was much more active on the bottom than Turner was
exactly.
on top. He was dropping elbows on him very aggressively, and Turner, I don't think Turner didn't even do really anything on top. And then yeah, Bahamundez got his leg over the shoulder, and before Jalen Turner even knew what to do, it didn't seem like he was really prepared for the triangle because he slipped it in very easily.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it just seemed just way too easy for him to get that triangle, and he just finished him real quick. I think going back to the start of the fight, like I just think Jalen Turner was not ready to fight that day, and
Yeah.
maybe he's. It might be one of those situations, like you said, where he was been contemplating retirement and just was like, okay, one more fight. I just gotta get one more paycheck in me, and then we're calling it a quits. So
Yeah.
maybe it was just a poor mindset by him.
I think it's a porn mindset to have in general. And the reason being is at 29 years of age, you have to go out there with I'm going to fight until the UFC kicks me out. It's
Oh,
not
Turner's only 29.
yeah, he was 29 years old. It's not like he's, 40 years old and, weathered and had a couple losses. Like he's in his prime, just probably mentally discouraged after his last performance. And obviously this one's, not going to improve his morale. But yeah, I just think that's way too young of a decision to make on your own. I think the UFC should make that call for you. If the
Yeah.
UFC doesn't think you're good enough to hang at 29-year-old, that's a different story.
Yeah, that is a little confusing. I don't know. Maybe he feels like he's already a little punch drunk in his life. Maybe
I don't see it, but
it's a situation like maybe he just wants to keep his head right.
yeah,
Maybe he
no, that's
wants
fair. I
to
mean, yeah, maybe that is a concern.
like you hear about it all the time in football, like NFL players retiring when they're 28, 29, 30. Just they like a guy like Khalil Mack did this, or not Khalil Mack, from Carolina. I don't remember. We'll throw it down below. But there are guys that retire all the time in the NFL that just want to retire before they start feeling CTE symptoms, and maybe that's Jalen Turner's idea too, right? Maybe he made enough money fighting and is like, okay, I can live off this nest egg and have a life.
Yeah. And on Bahamunda's side, a feather in his cap that the fact he was able to get a dominant submission win, because he's already shown that he's very capable on the feet in his previous fights. So showing that he has a ground game that can be feared as well.
All right, everyone. Sorry to interrupt real quick. Just remember to like and subscribe. All right, back to your video.
Moving on to our co-main event, we had Justin Gaethje winning by unanimous decision against Rafael Fiziev in their second time meeting in the octagon. Tell me your thoughts on the fight.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible fight. Like these guys were in an absolute freaking war again. I don't know. Is this just the highlight, right? That's Justin Gaethje's nickname, right?
Correct.
I mean, obviously Fiziev does the same thing, right? They're in absolute wars. They're both probably in the hospital today, recovering from this fight. That third round in particular was just absolutely insane, an absolute brawl. That Fiziev just seemed to run out of gas. Either he ran out of gas or he was just, I don't know, he was. Something happened towards the end of the third round where Gaethje just really poured it on, but it was such a close fight up until then. What did you think about it?
Yeah, no, you're right. He ran out of gas, and it very similar to the first fight, but also a little bit different in that Fiziev seemed to pace himself better at the beginning of the fight because he did gas out at the end. So maybe he was aware of that. I'm sure he was. Went into the fight, tried to pace himself a little bit better as far as the striking goes, not getting himself into a brawl straight away. And mixing in the wrestling, had some very aggressive takedowns at the beginning, which, was a great game plan. Mix it up, get Justin Gaethje put on his back. But even though he didn't gas out as early in the fight as he did last time, he still couldn't hang when Justin Gaethje was still there pouring it on him in the third round. That's when he weathered down and couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I mean, So I did notice one thing. Justin Gaethje did a Granby roll to get out of a takedown, which was kind of fun. I love seeing Granbys. Those were my
I
favorite.
didn't even register that. That's awesome.
Yeah, those are my favorite moves in wrestling. That was my favorite move in wrestling. Just figured I'd point that out.
Oh, cool.
Oh, this is something I noticed. Does Justin Gaethje just seem to lower his head a lot when he's going for punches? It feels like he lowers his head a lot and opens himself up for uppercuts.
In general, yes, but yeah, it was very evident last night. I agree.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Fiziev needed to get a read on that. That was a pattern that was happening over and over again. But Fiziev didn't pick up on it, and Gaethje was still able to repeatedly land right overhand punches after dropping his head.
I mean, it's one of those things where if you're in his corner, you got to tell him like, yeah, he's doing a lot of overhands where he's dropping his head. You know what? You gotta, when you see that coming, you gotta duck and give him a really good duck inside and give him a big uppercut, right?
Yeah.
Like if
or a knee.
Fiziev did that, or a knee, right?
Yeah.
Like if Fiziev reads that overhand, Gaethje ducks his head and he gives him that nasty uppercut.
Yeah.
Like that could have made the difference in the fight, but
for sure. For sure.
That's just something I noticed.
I don't know. I don't know if the corner didn't pick up on it or what either,
Yeah.
Maybe it was poor communication as far as, his corner picked up on it and he wasn't able to produce it out in the cage. But I agree that I'm surprised that didn't get picked up on because of how frequently it was happening.
Yeah.
Dude, but I just want to say, I feel like Justin Gaethje is creating a brand new GOAT conversation for himself. Okay. He's not the GOAT as in John Jones or, Alex Pereira or George St. Pierre. He's not that kind of GOAT, but dude, he's the entertainment GOAT.
He's the BAMF, right? He's the BAMF GOAT. Like,
well, I mean, he did lose the BMF, or are you referring to the BMF?
Yeah, the BMF.
Yeah, BMF. Yeah, he lost the BMF, but dude, he is one of the GOATs there.
Like did he win did he get a bonus for that fight again? Did they get that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, dude. 14. Yeah, he's got 14 fights, 14 bonuses. Yeah, fight of the night.
Yeah, I did not know if it was fight of the night yet. I was going to ask you that. Like, I don't know. Something about Gaethje. He's like, you're Fiziev, right? You hate that you lost both of those fights, but $100,000 does help the medicine go down a little bit.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. At least he got extra $50K from Gaethje fighting Gaethje twice.
Yeah. So,
dude, I wish it was a 5-round fight. That's my biggest thing is I wish we got 2 more rounds of that. I wish we could have seen someone go out cold.
I don't think Fiziev would have lasted 5. I think
it would have ended in the 4th.
Yeah, it would for sure. Gaethje had the gas to go. Fiziev was done. You could tell the last 2 minutes of the fight he was done with the fight, right? But
yeah.
Well, he wasn't done. He had the heart left, but he didn't have energy left, I would say.
Do you think Gaethje has earned his shot to take a 4th title fight?
Yeah, I was wondering about that because the rankings at lightweight are super interesting, right? Because I don't even know who the next title fight should be, who is going to go against Islam Makhachev, because we have Justin Gaethje, who reasonably could be given the title shot, but we also got Ilia Topuria coming up from that bantamweight or featherweight. Ilia Topuria coming up from featherweight to try to challenge, and then ahead of Gaethje is Arman. I'm not trying to say his last name, but like there's a bunch of guys there, but Gaethje probably makes the most entertaining fight. I think, in my opinion, if the Ilia Topuria isn't going back down, right? That's not happening at all.
Correct. He has no intention of going back down. He vacated the belt. And so I think that he will want a tune-up fight before he goes for the belt. He's a very calculated fighter. And when it comes to his involvement in and out of the cage, he's done a great job of promoting himself. And I think that seeing how he hangs with the lightweights and getting a you can call it a tune-up fight. He'll get a top 10 or 5 ranked opponent, getting a fight before he challenges for the belt, I think is smart. And I do believe that that's the route he'll take.
So this would be my argument against, it might be smart, but it's lightweight. It is probably the most competitive division in the sport.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even know if it's a tune-up fight. Maybe you're at the top of your game and Dana White offers a champion versus champion fight, and you're like, I'm taking it, because you don't want to accidentally get clipped by one of these guys like Charles Oliveira or Justin Gaethje, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you accidentally get clipped by one of those and never get your chance to fight for a title at lightweight, then it's not worth it.
Your top fighters don't have that mindset, man. They believe they can beat everybody there, and that's the mindset he's going to bring when he goes into that weight class, is that he is the best fighter in that weight class, and he's going to show it multiple times, So I think he'll take his time. I
don't know what it's going to be, because it could be anything. And I think the Topuria versus Makhachev fight is the most attractive at lightweight for the UFC. So they might try to convince him to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if the price is right, he might take the fight, of course.
Yeah.
But I think Charles Oliveira has a great chance of getting his rematch against Islam. He's been putting on dominant performances since coming back after his loss. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a title shot. But I think Gaethje is, if not next, then he's the one after that. I don't think he hangs with Islam, though. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't see very many people hanging with Islam, right? Like, yeah. I think the only person hanging with Islam is Bilal Muhammad if he goes up a weight.
Oh, if Islam went up?
Yeah, if Islam decides, you know what, I'm champion in lightweight, let's go up to welterweight and take that one too.
Like, yeah, that's a great point, honestly.
Or whoever it is at that point. It might be Leon Edwards again, or someone like that, right? Whoever is the champ at welterweight might have a better shot at fighting Makhachev just because he's heavier.
I can't disagree with you. I mean, he's put on dominant performances. His closest fight was against Volkanovski, and they rematched, and Islam looked different and put a whooping on him as well, So
for sure.
I think there's plenty of fighters for him to fight at lightweight for us to see, but I wouldn't be surprised if he smokes them all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he is the pound for pound best fighter in the world right now, and that's not disputed by very many people at all. All right, moving on to the next fight, we have the main event. Magomed Ankalaev challenging Alex Pereira for the light heavyweight belt. It was a great fight, incredible, super close battle, but Magomed Ankalaev pulled it out with a unanimous decision. What did you think of the decision? What did you think of the fight? How was it? Did you love the fight? What are your thoughts, Joshua?
Well, I mean, despite your beautiful introduction, I was not as excited about this fight as I thought I was going to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, very technical fight. Just not the high pace Alex Pereira pushing forward that I expected. Very sad to see Poatan get dethroned, and even more sad to see that it wasn't very decisive. Like it could have gone his way. There's going to be a lot of talk, like, Alex Pereira won the fight, and I mean, not that anybody was really cheering for him in the crowd, but obviously the crowd wasn't happy with the decision for Ankalaev. I don't know. I had the fight going to Pereira. Now, let me say this as a caveat, though. I had the fight going to Pereira because in my experience with the UFC, when a fight is absolutely neck and neck, I feel like the judges have champion bias. And it seems whenever it's really close, it goes back to the champion. So I was surprised to see that such a close fight, especially unanimous decision, went to Ankalaev.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I think if you look at it round by round, though, we can both agree that Alex Pereira round one, that was an easy decision, right? Yep. Like, he just annihilated Ankalaev's front leg. Like that thing was red the rest of the fight. He's probably limping all day today just from round one. Yeah, round two, I think Ankalaev clearly won that round, right? It was a good round. Both fighters were in it, but Ankalaev clearly was the aggressor in that round. Round three, very, very questionable. I don't know who won round three. It was a slow round. Neither fighter really did a ton. There was like jabs and some punches on both sides. Like I can see it going either way, honestly. Round four, Ankalaev really kept the pressure on. I think he definitely won that round. And then at the end of the fight, I think Pereira won round five, right? I think Pereira came back, kept the pressure up, had the strike advantage in round five. But so in my opinion, it all came down to whoever won round three, which is what I think the questionable round was. What are your thoughts on that?
So I just pulled up the scorecard so I can tell you. All three judges had Pereira winning the first round.
Okay. Yep.
Two judges had Pereira winning the fifth round.
Yep.
And
I would say I would have argued that it should have been all of them, but go on, keep going.
And
second
then,
and fourth to Ankalaev for everyone, right?
Correct. Which surprises me. I thought that round two was much closer, and I thought Pereira that's the round that can that surprises me. Okay,
No.
round three totally up in the air. That was a very tight round.
Yep.
Once again, all three judges saw it going to Magomed. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I disagree with you on round two. I think Ankalaev clearly won that round. I think he was the aggressor the full round. I think Pereira did get some strikes in. Don't get me wrong. Pereira did fight back in round two, but
yeah,
I think Ankalaev clearly was the aggressor, clearly had more strikes, clearly did more damage in that round. Like, obviously not like so much that it was like a 10-8 or like if there were half points, he would be a half point ahead. Right. But they don't do half points. So I think it was pretty clear that Magomed won round two personally.
Obviously, three judges agreed with you. So I will have to rewatch the fight so that I can see that perspective for myself. Yeah. But I mean, very close fight. What did you think about the mixing of the wrestling? So no takedowns scored. Alex Pereira had great takedown defense, but held up against the cage a lot. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I think the winner of that in general should be Alex Pereira because of takedown defense. I think this is another problem. We're talking a lot about UFC scoring this podcast, but I think they undervalue takedown defense, right? Okay. And I think, like, for instance, if someone goes for a takedown and does not get the takedown, I think that should count against them, right? I think if they go for a takedown and only push them on the fence, then I believe it should count against them because that is in favor of the other guy. Now, the difference in this fight in particular, for instance, in round two, I think, is that when he got Pereira on the fence, he threw a lot of punches and he threw a lot of knees in there, right? I think that makes a difference, right? You're active on the fence. But there were rounds in this fight where that wasn't the case as much, where Ankalaev got Pereira on the fence and he just kept in there, was not very active. I mean, they had to split him up at one point because neither of them were doing anything, right?
That's true.
So
no, I totally agree with you. I definitely agree with you as far as the takedown defense. It's not an easy thing to do to defend a takedown in the UFC. And not that it matters that Pereira has a boxing background, but it made it even more impressive that he was doing it with that background. So I do agree that maybe there should be some changes to the scoring system, that takedown defenses are either bolsters on your score or knock down your opponent's score.
right.
Hard to give points to someone once they're against the fence, though, and they're not. It comes down to that advantageous position again.
Yeah. If you want my opinion, I think there are a couple of things that I would promote scoring. One is escapes, right? Like wrestling, you get a point for an escape no matter what version of wrestling you're in, right? Like
Yeah.
you get someone takes you down, they get 2, you get an escape, you get 1. I think escaping from the bottom should be given the value it's due, right? And I also think escaping from the fence and defending on the fence should give the value it's due. Now, I think as well, if you force the ref in to call a stalemate because you are preventing the aggressor from doing anything, that is also something that should go in your favor, right? Like there's a point in time where you're in a bad position and you outperform the person in a good position just by defending better. And I think that should be favorable to you as a fighter.
Yeah. And so, I mean, as impressed as I was with Alex's takedown defense, one thing that was lacking was his ability to get away off the fence.
Yep,
Okay.
that's for sure.
So he didn't get taken down, but he wasn't able to escape. And I think that was the big downfall, not only on the scorecard as far as control time goes, but it gassed him out a lot. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
This is probably the first grappling experience that Alex Pereira has ever had. And I say probably, I'm pretty sure he's never been in a grappling exchange in the UFC. He's had a very ideal career for a kickboxer in that he's fought other people that want to strike as well. The fact that he was stifled and couldn't get off the fence is not a good sign, right? You know, maybe he was able to stop the takedown itself, but he didn't stop the grappling from controlling him.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, just looking at his record, I think the only real wrestler that he's fought, from what I can see, is Yuri Prohaska, but he's not even a major wrestler.
You're right. He's got skills,
striker, but he is a wrestler as well.
Yeah, he's got skills on the ground, but yeah, that wasn't it wasn't showcased in the fight, at least, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah,
I'm very sad to see him
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Pereira never got to the ground, was put on the ground in that fight, was
Correct.
he?
Nope.
Like, I think that is an impressive factor to consider, but I do think Magomed did win the fight just by the current UFC rules and just in general. I think he won the fight, but
yeah,
it's definitely a close one. I definitely think it's an immediate rematch schedule.
How do you think that a rematch would go?
I think it depends on which Alex Pereira shows up. I think so. The way he defended the takedown in this fight made me think, okay, he's going to be able to defend the takedowns next fight as well against Magomed. So I think if he comes out as a more aggressive fighter, if he really is aggressive and puts himself in more of a risk, I think he wins the fight. I think he was not willing to risk being knocked out. I mean, I know Magomed has that knockout power as well, but Alex Pereira just didn't seem to be putting himself at risk for the fight to me.
I totally agree with the aggression factor, because Alex Pereira, his typical game is he is this massive human being with a presence that terrifies people. Yeah. And when he gets into the octagon and he's approaching you, you know what kind of power he has in his hands. And people are typically backpedaling. They're on the back foot. He's able to walk them down. And he was not able to walk down Magomed. He was the one being pushed backwards. And because most of his, I would say his defense is almost his presence, right? He doesn't have very good head movement when he's striking. He's very accurate with his punches. He hides everything perfectly. Nothing gets telegraphed. But if you watch when punches are coming his way, he does get hit by punches. It. Yeah, he doesn't move his head very, very much. He's very linear, back and forth movement with his footwork. He's not, he's not circling away from the punches, things like that.
He's also a very tall fighter as well, right?
Like he
stands up tall. He's not in a aggressive lower stance. He's big and
He does have a
stands
very
up
upright
tall.
stance. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the fact that he finally faced an opponent that wasn't going to allow themselves to be put on the back foot, I think it exposed the defensive issues of Alex Pereira.
Right.
If there was a rematch, I give it back. I give it to Magomed again.
Okay.
I think Alex Pereira had a good chance of winning this had he fought a little bit differently, but Magomed did not push the pace and didn't start the wrestling until later in the fight.
Yeah.
And it worked right off the bat, right? I mean, worked as far as controlling him, tiring him out. And so I think Magomed really respected the power of Alex Pereira round one and didn't do much. And so it was obviously, I mean, every judge said that Pereira won that fight or won that round. So I think if there's a rematch, I think Magomed comes out more aggressive right off the bat and gives Pereira even more issues.
Yeah, and the other factor to consider is if there is a rematch, it's on Magomed's terms versus Alex Pereira's terms. And I don't know if you saw this leading up to the fight, but it's the month of March right now, and that is Ramadan in the Islamic faith. So
exactly,
Magomed could not. So according to his faith, he could not eat anything during daylight hours.
Yeah,
right.
Which you have to assume. This was not his best performance because of that.
Yeah. His entire fight camp, his entire everything meant he could not eat during daylight hours. So he had to fast at that time. So that definitely had an impact on him. And you know what? If I'm him and Alex Pereira had scheduled this fight, then I'm not taking my foot off the gas. I'm requesting Dana White to have the next fight with Alex Pereira in Abu Dhabi. Force him to come across the world, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny because you said, definitely had an effect on him. It definitely had effect on him scientifically, as far as your body's definitely operating less efficiently that way. But man, did he make it look like it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It had an effect on him scientifically and in everyone's head leading up to the fight. But when they got into the ring, it did not look like it had any effect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I hate to see the Pereira dethroned. He was a great champion. I think that he'll continue to do very well in the division. We'll have to see. I agree there could be an immediate rematch. There will be a rematch at some point, especially if Pereira goes and wins his next fight or two. But yeah, sad to see him dethroned. He was the people's champ.
Yeah. I just think that with Pereira, I mean, obviously I like Pereira. He's a fun guy to watch. He's a fun fighter. I think he has enough of a resume to get the immediate rematch, right? Like, he's defended the title. He's been a champ in 2 divisions, right? Like, has the resume to be worth the immediate rematch.
And people would want to see it. People want to see him on the TV, and people would love to see him try and get that belt back.
100%.
Any other thoughts on the fights for today?
No, I think we've covered everything.
Dude, fantastic freaking card.
Card.
We've been so lucky in 2025 so far. We're just absolute banger after banger after banger.
3 weekends in a row. I mean, you and I in particular starting this YouTube channel with 3 absolute banger of a night, absolute insane nights of fighting, right?
Yep.
Like,
couldn't ask for a better start to our podcasting career. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you liked our content today, make sure to check out our other videos, subscribe, share our videos. This is the OneLife Podcast. Adam, anything from you?
Nope. That's all I got. Just remember, subscribe, tune into the next one, click on one of the videos on the sides. I don't know where it is. It's going to be somewhere around here to watch some more videos.
Yes, sir. All right. Peace.
Peace.